6:30. We'll call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, please call roll.
Ronnie Bush. Samuel Newton. Luann Hayes. Casey Anthony.
Present.
William Hadley.
Here.
Jim Hart. Kurt Copeland.
Here.
Adam Modero.
Here.
Larry Jogers.
Here.
Brooke Deininger.
Here.
Scott Helms.
Present.
Jackie DeMeester.
Here.
Nicole Baker.
Here.
Steve Frick.
Present.
Brian Brandt. Tim Whalen.
Yes, ma'am.
13 present, 3 absent.
Mr. Frick, would you lead us in prayer, and Mr. Brandt the pledge?
Dear Lord, we thank you for this gathering here this evening. We ask that you would share your wisdom with us as we discuss the business of our county. We thank you for each member here present. We ask that you would bless them tonight and in Jesus' name.
Amen.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before I ask for approval of the agenda, I would like to remind all board members to please speak directly into their microphones, and they will be off unless you push the button that says push. So when you're done speaking, please push it again to turn it off. Is there an approval of the agenda?
So moved.
By Mr. Whalen. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
By Mr. Jogers. I would ask if I could get a motion to amend to move Sheriff Stovall's presentation up after the consent agenda, as well as moving the new business item, approval of letter of support for the DCEO site readiness grant for Lamb Road Corridor, moving that up as well to after the Greater Freeport Partnership presentation. If I could get a motion to amend that. By Mr. Newton, is there a second? By Mrs. Hayes. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And did I get a motion for that?
To amend?
Yes, okay. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Aye.
By Ms. Hayes, is there a second?
I had something to remove. You didn't ask the question yet.
This is for the agenda, Mr. Hadley.
Oh, the agenda, okay.
We'll get to the consent agenda.
Hayes, and who was the second? Baker.
Mrs. Baker. Any discussion on approval of the agenda as amended? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now we'll move on to the consent agenda. Is there any board member that would like to remove any items? Mr. Hadley, go ahead.
Please remove D and E, please.
D and E. Any other items? Okay. Is there a motion to approve A, B, and C? By Mr. Frick, is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Copeland, is there any discussion on A, B, and C? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Steve Frick.
Yes.
Brian Brandt.
Yes.
Tim Whalen.
Yes.
Ronnie Bush.
Yes.
Samuel Newton. Luann Hayes.
Aye.
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart.
Yes.
Kurt Copeland.
Yes.
Adam Modero.
Aye.
Larry Jogers.
Aye.
Brooke Deininger.
Aye.
Scott Helms.
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester.
No.
Nicole Baker.
Aye.
15A, 1 nay, motion carries.
Thank you. What is your pleasure with D and E? Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
By Mr. Brandt, is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Modero. Mr. Hadley, go ahead.
Yes, could we have the county engineer up, please, again?
Mr. Rasmussen?
Yes, please.
Good evening.
Yeah, good evening, Dale. On this professional service on Bolton Road Bridge replacement, I asked about a bridge a while back on Bolton Road down by the church. Is this a different bridge now?
This is the railroad overpass at Bolton Road, just south of US 20.
Oh, okay, then. That's why Canadian Northern is in this document and stuff like that. Okay, and when would that bridge be replaced?
It's still in the beginning stages. This is an amendment to, we have a construction observation contract with Willard Hoffman, this is an amendment, $15,000 amendment to that original contract to do some upfront work prior to having a stipulated agreement with the ICC and Canadian National.
What kind of condition is it in at this time? Is it?
It's substandard vertically and horizontally. So I think with the new bridge, we'll probably have good vertical clearance, but we're trying to get a good enough horizontal clearance.
Weight lift, I mean, the weight requirement on the bridge or anything?
The bridge just takes care of the railroad, so
Oh,
we don't have
okay.
any
Oh, okay.
dealing with that.
Down on this purchase of broom mower, I got on the website today and looked at the Association of County Board Members. They still have the John Deere program. Could you have got this through John Deere? Or something similar to this
Well,
with John Deere?
we went through Sourcewell and found what we were looking for in Sourcewell.
As you know, we went through, I helped you go through John Deere the last time, you know, and it's amazing. I even let the city of Freeport know about John Deere program, and they bought a mower through John Deere and some equipment and stuff like that. So I highly recommend, you know, when you're looking at equipment, I would, you know, contact John Deere and see what kind of program they have on that piece of equipment, because some of the savings is, you know, 25, 30% off, you know, to municipalities and counties and everything. So thank you, Dale.
Sure. Anything else?
Thank you, Dale.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Clerk, please take roll on D and E.
Brian Brandt. Tim Whalen.
Aye.
Ronnie Bush. Samuel Newton. Luann Hayes. Casey Anthony. William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart.
Yes.
Kurt Copeland. Adam Modero.
Aye.
Larry Jogers.
Aye.
Brooke Deininger. Scott Helms.
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester. Nicole Baker. Steve Frick. 16A, 0 nay, motion carries.
All right, very good. Sheriff Stovall, would you like to come up for your employee recognition?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, board members. I am pleased to formally recognize the promotion of Deputy Jamie Hare to the rank of sergeant. This achievement is a testament to Deputy Hare's hard work, dedication, and exemplary performance. This board may recognize Deputy Hare as he has received a Commendation for Excellence Award in 2023 for extracting a woman from a rollover accident moments before the vehicle started on fire. And he also received the 2023 Deputy of the Year. Deputy Hare consistently demonstrates a strong sense of duty and professionalism, making a positive impact on the Sheriff's Office and the community we serve. As Deputy Hare steps into this new role, I am confident that he will continue to excel and lead by example. I am proud to be the first to congratulate Sergeant Jamie Hare on this well-deserved promotion. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Is there anyone that would like to give public comment? If so, please step up to the podium. You'll have 3 minutes.
Hi, Jim Hart. Just real briefly, this is for the county board members. I'm looking for some assistance, rather the Salvation Army is looking for some assistance to ring the bell around Christmas time and prior to Christmas, obviously. And apparently they've reached out to some of the parties and some of the groups of leaders in the community, and they haven't heard back from some of us. I was hoping that as a county board, maybe we could do something with the Salvation Army, go ring their bells for them. And there's a couple of things we can do. You can do that individually. I'm going to ask if maybe you could, you know, tell Georgia, is that okay, Georgia? If they're interested, if you guys could funnel it through her. and then we can get it over to the Salvation Army. Or if we can put something together as a group, we can go take a full day somewhere. It's usually a 2-hour shift. So we could, as a group, take a day on 1 or 2 days and go ring at a specific location and kind of take all of those slots up. So just a plug for the Salvation Army. Thank you. If you have any, if you're willing to do that and help, if you'd please get a hold of Georgia or myself, I'd appreciate it. Or Luann, she can usually twist everyone's arm. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim.
Anyone else for public comment? Okay, seeing none, we will ask Andrea Winter-Schultz and Nicole Haas to come up from Greater Freeport Partnership for your quarterly presentation. Thank you for coming, ladies.
Thank you for having us. We need to connect now.
We're going to test out the amazing new technology here.
All right, awesome. Now it's up to me if I screw it up, right? Good evening, thank you. Tonight we will go through the highlights of our activity in the third quarter. Again, you will see that these are organized in correlation to our strategic plan focus areas. You will also see that the third quarter report that you received in your packet is also organized in the same manner. So we'll start with business retention and expansion. And we understand it's very difficult to address business needs if we don't know what they are. So it's key for us to go out and be visiting as many businesses as we can. Over the last quarter, we were able to visit with 14 primarily focused on primary employers, so some of our larger employers, mainly in the manufacturing sector. Consistently, what we heard were attracting workforce is still their number one issue. There's a limited number of workers to pull from. There is a difficulty attracting talent because potential employees cannot find childcare and/or quality housing. And sometimes specific positions such as maintenance technicians are difficult to fill. There is expertise is in high demand and in short supply. What is promising is that there are a number of programs that align to the skill set desired in these positions at Highland, and there has been increasing enrollment semester after semester. So there is a pipeline that exists and is increasing. Now, as we continue to see demographics and ages, people age out of the workforce, there will probably still be a shortage for some time to come in those key positions. We understand that having greenfield sites and having shovel-ready sites is key to economic growth in Stephenson County. We need to have a place for existing businesses to go if they need to expand, and we need to have a place for businesses that we attract to the area. That's why the partnership has gone after a DCO regional site readiness grant led by John Bosco. In our office, there will be a grant application completed and submitted tomorrow before the deadline on Monday. As mentioned earlier, our agenda item that will come later is asking for a letter of support from the county that will accompany the letter of support that we got from City of Freeport as well as some landowners to evaluate, and really these dollars, if awarded, would allow us to study and evaluate which sites make sense for future development. It's not obligating any landowner to sell their land. It is simply for allow us to study so that we can make plans for the best use of land in the future. Next, enterprise zone boundary expansion for future opportunities. You will see an agenda item on your agenda next month asking for approval from the county board for a boundary amendment to the Northwest Illinois Enterprise Zone to add 2 parcels into the enterprise zone to help facilitate some development outside of Lena. So more to come. We hope to have that application wrapped up and submitted to the state by the end of this year. We are currently conducting a Stephenson County business survey that we have distributed as widely as we can to businesses throughout Stephenson County to help us understand the challenges in business climate, both locally and within their industry. So if you could help also to promote that, you'll see that in our Tuesday newsletters. If you could also fill that out, if it applies, if you're a business owner, we would like to see your responses. We hope to close that survey by the end of this month and then start working on analyzing those results. In the beginning of October, we hosted an upstairs downtown workshop with Illinois Main Street to understand upper story residential opportunities. This was a free program that we co-hosted with Illinois Main Street, where we had 2 experts come in talking about upper floor redevelopment. What are the best practices? What are some of the regulatory barriers that are in place, and how do we overcome those? Why is this still a key issue? Why are we focusing on that? Well, for a number of reasons. We talked about housing being an issue. Upper floors, if they're renovated, they can become housing units. They can become apartments or condos, and that is a housing typology that is needed here. We also understand that having more people living in downtown means more people frequenting businesses that are in downtown, helping to support them. We also know that if you have all floors of a building being utilized, the building's more likely to be maintained, as well as increase property values, which then increases property tax. So it's a win-win. So we continue, the next steps with this project will be kind of bringing that knowledge and that the best practices that we talked about, how can those be translated here? We'll be working with building owners on a case-by-case basis, talking about enterprise zone and other benefits that they could utilize to start doing redevelopment work. And again, we continue to market our business support and business startup services. We were able to assist 12 entrepreneurs in this past quarter. Of those 12, 8 were persons of color or women. We are seeing an increasing demographic in terms of having more women starting their own businesses and more people of color. Various business typologies were interested in getting started, as well as starting various kind of points in their business journey. Some people are just getting started, thinking about starting a business. Some people are refining and honing in on their business plan, but we continue to connect with them and supply the support they need. In terms of workforce solutions, as we mentioned before, one of the key components to our employers are having is around some workforce issues. So continuously, we hear that childcare is a barrier for employment. So what we have done is we facilitated a number of meetings with experts in that field. The partnership is not a childcare provider, nor are we planning to become one, but we know that there are some here, and we know that it is a difficult landscape to understand all the regulations that go into making a successful childcare business. But we do know that there are other communities that are facing the same struggles that we are, and there are other communities that are finding solutions. So it is always imperative for us to look at what are the best practices that are happening elsewhere. So next Tuesday afternoon, I will travel over to Dubuque, Iowa to tour the Bright Minds campus along with 2 childcare providers. This is a new campus and a new facility that's a collaborative effort between the YMCA, Dubuque Public Schools, and other local agencies that have childcare and wraparound services. Is this a model that could be modeled or copied and replaced, or not replaced, but modeled here in Stephenson County? Potentially. So we're going to go check that out, as well as in Mount Carroll with the redevelopment of what was formerly the Shimer College. A child care center is being developed there as well. So we anticipate touring that facility, meeting with stakeholders and leaders to understand how they're putting that project together. Housing. As we've talked about upper floor residential being a housing typology that's needed, we also know that single-family residential housing is also key and a desire for many communities in Stephenson County. We're fortunate that we have the enterprise zone that stretches through a lot of Stephenson County, Freeport, other areas, and other communities, which can help lower the cost of development of single-family housing or any housing. And so we've met with 2 developers over the last quarter who are interested in or in the process of purchasing lots with the intent to construct new residential units. They could be duplexes or single-family homes. We continue to connect them with City of Freeport officials, utility providers, explain the enterprise zone process, whatever we can do so that they can get a shovel in the ground faster, we are committed to doing. Today is manufacturing day for many Stephenson County area students, and they spent their morning touring 7 local factories, facilities, understanding what technology looks like here in Stephenson County, what technology looks like in 2024, and understanding that it's quite a bright industry that's key to the economic development growth here in Stephenson County. And it gives them the opportunity to say, hey, I think I would be interested in doing that in the future. And oh, by the way, now I understand what happens in that building that I've driven past all my life, but I didn't know before. So it was a rewarding afternoon connecting high school students to future opportunities. We had a wide representation from a lot of different manufacturers, being if they're value-added ag, food manufacturers, metal manufacturers, all represented there with today. And we continue to understand that there's a lot of different ways that people enter the workforce. The Yield program is a joint effort between the Boys and Girls Club, actually spearheaded by the Boys and Girls Club. And they're a pre-apprenticeship program that works with youth that are 18 years or older and have a high school diploma or a GED. It gets them interested in the trades, offers them coursework, helps them, gives them exposure, hands-on experience, and that will hopefully lead them into an apprenticeship program. The Yield program has struggled consistently from year to year to secure funding so that they can continue. Knowing this and knowing that the state of Illinois has allocated a fair amount of funds and programs around pre-apprenticeship programs, there's something called CEJA, which is Climate Equitable Jobs Act. And it's a pre-apprenticeship program, and a hub for that is Goodwill Industries out of Rockford. Now, I'm kind of going into the weeds here, but what Goodwill Industry also does, besides what we're all used to in terms of donating items and then they resell them, they offer a lot of workforce development programs. So they administer CEJA dollars for this region. Knowing that there was a lot of program alignment between the Yield program and the CEJA pre-apprenticeship program, I was able to connect those two entities, and the Yield program has funding for the next 2 years. Lastly, business attraction. In the last quarter, we've had 29 new economic development leads. 19 of those have been provided by Intersect Illinois, which is the state's business attraction arm. 14 of those we could unfortunately not respond to for many different reasons that are outlaid here. Sometimes it is the proximity to ports or other multimodal facilities. Sometimes we don't lack a site or a building large enough for the company's desire. And sometimes there's such a heavy water user that even the city of Freeport's not going to be able to support their water use. However, we were able to respond to 5 leads with properties or sites that we have in the area. Additionally, 10 leads came from local businesses or government agencies. Of those 6, 10 were new businesses that were interested in starting in the area, and 4 were existing businesses that were looking to expand or relocate within the area. We continue to connect all of them and work with them in terms of where they're at and what resources they need in terms of financing, regulatory issues, responses from government partners, anything that we can do to help their business be successful. I'm now going to turn the presentation over to Nicole, who's going to talk about marketing the region.
Thank you. In the key focus areas that Andrea introduced early on in the presentation, one of them, marketing the region, is broken down into 3 facets. How we market to people who we want to eventually move here, how we market to businesses who we think could relocate here, and then how we market the services of the partnership to be able to inform people about the work that we do and how we can help in the development process or even member services, other business services. To do one of those goals, reaching people, we created the Stephenson County Area Advocate Program, thanks to the help of a local business owner who kind of piloted it off of something that they found in another region. And we're able to reach new residents in Stephenson County thanks so much to the help from the clerk's office. Looking at new deeds that are recorded in the county, we send a postcard to those new addresses, and it has a QR code on there so that they can make an appointment to meet with somebody from our office or area advocates that we are bringing on board for this program. So far, we just started sending out postcards in early September. We held an in-person meeting and had 5 new residents come, and I've been able to connect with 3 more individually and had 2 more bag drop-offs. So out of 500 new residents that were in the area between March and September, we have been able to connect with. It's a small increment right now, but really what we've heard back has been really uplifting. The people who moved to this area love it here. They love being here for a lot of different reasons. It could be, close proximity to a doctor because they lived in a rural area, or moving out of a city and they like being someplace quieter. I've met with people who came from as close as Davis, the other side of Davis, and Savannah to New Jersey and Florida and North Carolina. The New Jersey one, I think I got all of his information, but his accent was pretty thick. So in all of those, we have had the opportunity to collect survey responses on what they've liked in the area, what else they would like to see, what are some of the services that they have found helpful so far in their move. And that allows us to really welcome these people here. And they are some of our best advocates. Our new people have tremendous things to say about this area, and we want to continue to do that in the future. We're also creating a 12-month printed calendar because of all of the ways that we try to promote the great things happening in the county between social media, the radio, and TV. Some people say they still don't know what's going on around here. So next week at the Senior Expo, we will start distributing over 800 calendars, and different nonprofit organizations, event planners have added their events to that calendar, and they will be distributed to residents for free, enabling us to continue that positive momentum, showing what's happening in the area. Music on Chicago, 2 Music on Chicago events and Cruise Night all occurred in the third quarter. They continue to be great opportunities for residents to feel a connection to this community. Whether you're interested in cars, live music, or just getting out and hanging out on a really fantastic summer night, they have brought out thousands of people, and it's all an opportunity to continue to say, I really like living here. The partnership was awarded the Matthew Marvin Community Impact Award from the Community Foundation of Northwest Illinois for our work in economic development at their annual dinner last month. And also, we continue our rebranding campaign, focusing on the key strategic areas that were presented earlier in the program. And I didn't even know we were going to have this amazing technology tonight, but just to test it out and give you the full scope of what it can do, I'm going to show you a little video.
The Greater Freeport Partnership is a catalyst for economic growth,
fostering an inclusive environment where businesses thrive and our community prospers.
We are dedicated to nurturing new opportunities while enriching the fabric of Freeport and Stephenson County.
The partnership strives to be a driving force for a prosperous future,
where strategic economic solutions ignite opportunity for growth.
We envision a thriving life for our residents that embraces diversity
and upholds a strong business community.
Our relentless commitment to our community's well-being
and economic success sets us on a path
to create a dynamic and inclusive Freeport and Stephenson County.
The Greater Freeport Partnership is committed to
promoting equity, celebrating diversity,
and creating a culture of belonging
in Freeport and Stephenson County.
Those were our board members continuing to recite our mission, vision, and inclusion statement, which were all adopted by the board earlier this year. Oh, I don't want to show you, as fantastic as it is, you don't need to see it again. Just a second here. There we go. All right, visitor attraction for the area. We are finishing up, so that would be third quarter is primarily tourism season. So July through September, we were able to support 500,000 views. It was 600,000 total in the campaign that extended a little farther into October. Views on digital platforms, so Google, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Our primary focus regions that responded to that campaign by either clicking on things, asking for information, was Chicago metro areas, Madison, and Milwaukee. Those are key destinations because they're far enough away that they could consider an overnight stay or even a day trip. We'll take people's money either way. And also are within an area that would keep them coming back as well. Our visitor spending has increased for a third year in a row. The state of Illinois hires an outside firm to look at the overall visitor spending in the state, and then they break it down by county. Of course, everything lags a little bit in data collection, so we received 2023's numbers in August and continue to break records with our visitor spending at $52 million. And that doesn't include just sales tax and hotel motel tax. That's what you spend when you come and purchase gas, when you're buying at the convenience store, when you're shopping local, or even dining at local restaurants. So everybody gets a chance to take a little bit of that money when new people come to the area. Also, we continue to promote our tourism partners while supporting them through grant opportunities and partner connections. We know nobody's work is done alone. Obviously, that's why we have the word partnership in our name. And usually whatever one person has a problem with, another organization does as well. And it's amazing the amount of help that can be is just putting two people in the same room together. And that's been the solution with a lot of our tourism partners as well. Since Bill was unable to join us tonight, I'm just going to run through some membership numbers. This goes to the capacity of the partnership, our other strategic goal. We have 423 members of the partnership. That includes 15 new members in the third quarter, and that is a 94.3% retention rate just for the third quarter. But over the entire year, we're at 96.5%. We continue to track that as a key metric because we want to make sure that once we have had an opportunity to engage with you, you continue to see the value in the organization year over year.
We're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mrs. Hayes, make sure you press your button, please, on your microphone. Go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. Hello, ladies. Thank you for the report. I do have a question. On quarter three, I'm looking at your report that you sent us. The hotel occupancy percentage for quarter three is significantly down from the last 2 years, especially June, July. August, you're still down. September, you're still down. I'm wondering, because, you know, we're marketing, we're getting people from Chicago, Milwaukee, Madison. Those numbers should be actually be increasing. Since they're not, and this has been a kind of a trend of this year that everything's been down, I think I asked this the last time. What is your plan to increase those numbers by the end of the year? Because you are funded by these numbers.
Absolutely, and for not just the funding reason, but because that's a goal, is to always increase visitor spending. So we were able to break down the midweek versus the weekend occupancy. Again, making generalizations that tourists visit on the weekends. Our weekend occupancy is really not down that much. It is in weekday. A lot of the bigger development projects that we have had over the last couple of years, solar farms, pipelines, larger construction projects, keep people here during the week, and we haven't seen that continue this year. So yes, I really hope that tourism can take the place of that and we can continue to fill people 7 days a week. But right now, that's where we're seeing the shift, is in weekday stays more than weekends.
Chairman, may I ask a follow-up question?
Yes.
What is your plan to increase and get back those nights? You've got 2.5 months to bring those nights up. What is your plan? Who are you working with to increase those? It's not about the spending. Spending is great. It's about occupancy rates, because that's what everything is based on, right? All the financials. So what is your plan to increase overnight stays between now and the end of the year?
Really, as much as I would love to be able to influence weekday stays from business, that's difficult. But being able to get people who we consider tourists midweek is hard. But continuing to look at opportunities, we don't currently have a conference center. We don't currently have any sports tourism. Conferences would be a great way for us to fill hotels midweek because everybody does those during the weekday. But we're lacking in space. One of our goals doesn't help in the next 2.5 months, but is to attract a hotel that would have some of these other amenities that would allow us to continue to have that occupancy. And then it's not just for the new hotel, it's for the overflow as well. But we don't have any facilities that currently have on-site conference space available. We are aware that it's something that we lack compared to a lot of other cities, even cities our size. But you're right, continuing to get the occupancy rate up is a goal. And most weekends, we're looking between 85 and 90% occupied, which is really fantastic. But that's not being offset by the other 4 days a week. That also, just as a side note, we did subscribe to a new service, a new software that collects occupancy data for a larger region outside of the main chain hotels that we contact right now. So I look forward to looking into that data. And then also trying to connect with some of these other employers, because a lot of the weekday stays don't get as much from the hotel. You know, they're charged less of a rate. So just because occupancy is down doesn't mean that the overall hotel revenue is down based on the RevPAR.
Mr. Hadley, go ahead.
Yes, a couple questions. I stopped at Belvedere Oasis here maybe a couple weeks ago, noticed that we got space for our magazine that Greater Freeport Partnership puts out. Who keeps up the rack on that? How many magazines do we leave over there?
That's actually, somebody does that as a business. So we subscribe to that as a service from Visit Northern Illinois, I think is what it's called. And so far, I think we've gone through I've delivered to them 16 to 20 boxes at about 60 guides per box. So I guess that's about 1,200, give or take. But yeah, that's a service we use.
And that goes to the Belvedere Oasis strictly then?
Yeah. The other Oasis, it's kind of a costly investment. Earlier in the quarter, I think it was the beginning of August, we actually contracted with another distributor and were able to actually hang those same guides on 7,000 households in Geneva and St. Charles in bags. We actually put them in there, picked the neighborhoods, and somebody went through and hung them on each door. And that was the same cost as me putting it in the Oasis for 2 years. But I was able to distribute 3 times as many guides for pretty much the same price.
The next question I have is for you. Recently, a while back, we sold 2 lots out at Millrace Crossing to one individual. What are we hearing on that? Any construction going to be happening in the near future? Or?
I hope in the spring. They wanted to get shovels in the ground this fall. They had been working with a builder. Cost estimates came back higher than expected. They are now talking with other builders that we've connected them with and going through a similar process. I think a little value engineering and understanding that maybe size of the building might shrink initially and then how it would be phased in the future. Being realistic about time frame, supply chain, it's possible they could break ground yet this fall depending on weather, but I think it's likely in the spring.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else? Okay, if not, ladies, if you would just stand fast for a moment, we'll move on to new business. We have an approval of the letter of support for the DCEO Site Readiness Grant for Lamb Road Corridor. Can I get a motion on that before we have discussion?
Motion.
Motion to approve by Mr. Newton, second by Mrs. Hayes. Andrea, would you like to discuss that, please?
Sure, and I'm going to give a brief overview, and if there are very specific questions, I'm going to ask for John to come forward. He is the one who's led the grant writing effort. So in general, DCEO understands that business attraction requires having sites that are shovel ready. And they have put out some grant-funded opportunities or grant funding opportunities for communities to go after that are in different phases. Some, it's kind of more of a discovery and planning, and that is the grant application we're going after. The next would be, there's also a capital campaign or a capital grant application as well. Being where we're at, we understand that there are some key corridors, industrial corridors, that it's likely that that is where development will occur. But some of those areas have not really been evaluated in terms of the due diligence activities. This grant that we've gone after will, if awarded, will help fund and pay for those for those due diligence activities. There is no cost share from either of our government partners, the city or the county. The grant will be administered in-house from the Greater Freeport Partnership. We are just looking for a letter of support, as we understand it is everyone's goal to grow the economy, and part of that requires having some shovel-ready sites.
Any questions? Okay, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? One in opposition, motion carries. Thank you very much, ladies. We'll move on to unfinished business. The first item is to make a motion to accept the 2023 audit as received and laid over at the September 19th, 2024 County Board meeting. Is there a motion to do so?
Motion to approve.
By Mr. Hart, is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Whalen, is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Next item is an approval of the amended intergovernmental agreement with the Village of German Valley. As you may recall, this was passed out of finance in September, brought before the board last month, and was laid over to tonight. I would entertain a motion.
So moved.
To approve, Mr. Bush?
Yeah. Second.
Second by Mr. Hadley. Is there any discussion? Mr. Jogerst.
Thank you. Yeah, I think originally when all this came up with the German Valley and the Freeport projects, I was opposed to that because of the fact that it was basically county money that was given to us and should be used for projects that we needed to take care of as a county board. And I think it kind of got handed out as maybe political handouts or something. I think we're already past the point of no return on the Freeport project. But I think we need to pull back. If anybody listened to the Wednesday night finance meeting, the budget is very tight, very, very tight. We're definitely in a recession right now, and we need to pull back our spending. And so I'm going to be opposed to approval of this agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Jogerst. Mr. Frick.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Several things here. First of all, to address some of what Mr. Jogerst talked about a little bit. When those funds were there, all of a sudden, now we look back and say, oh, we needed that money for ourselves. At that moment and at that time, you didn't say that.
Oh, I did.
Well, you didn't have any plan. We can talk about that.
Yep.
At this point, I have to vote for this. I think that what German Valley has done is their due diligence. They had some changes take place as far as funding. Illinois EPA told them that they needed to have work done on their lift station that serves every resident house in that village, as well as a polisher that is used to make sure that the water that is put out into the stream out of the treatment plant is safe. Illinois EPA told them you need to have the water safe first, then you need to work on the rest of your project. To the tune of about $7.5 million is where it started. As they went through the process, they provided data to us showing their need. We agreed to that need. They started their project. They did not know at that time that Illinois EPA was going to make the loan that they applied for forgivable. That was not part of the original plan. As the thing went forward, Illinois EPA found some dollars and said, we will make these dollars available to you as a forgivable loan. That's still left, that's 1.5 million, that's still left another 5 million in dollars to take care of. So the $500, they came back to us and said, hey, we're not going to use it for that polisher, we're going to use it for our lift station, which is also part of the problem that Illinois EPA says we need to resolve. So that's what they came to us to do, just to amend their intergovernmental agreement that we already had with them. They didn't change the scope of their project. The project is still to fix the sewer system for the village. So as you heard from Mrs. Winter, there's some things going on. They are addressing some potential development in German Valley that they want to make sure that they didn't know at the time. That was just recently within the last 2 weeks. So they're looking to make sure that they can get this sewer system operating in a way that is legal and meets all Illinois standards. Also, many people have made comments that they heard that Representative Sorensen came and offered them $5 million to fix their project. Well, he came, he talked about $5 million, but unlike the city of Freeport, where they got to carry around their big $900,000 check, German Valley still has to make sure that these dollars are passed through the Senate and then hope that they get them. So the project is still going forward the same way, and I would hope that you would vote in favor of supporting the village of German Valley. If you have any other specific questions, the village president is here this evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Frick. Mrs. Hayes.
Thank you. It was my understanding back when we did those intergovernmental agreements that it was specific for a certain item, a certain task, a certain project. And it feels like after 3 months, you guys didn't start it right away. And then after 3 months, you came back and said, we need to amend this. And we can't really amend, we're starting over. We're starting over because it may be in your big scope of things, but our intergovernmental agreement was very specific in the wording, if you go back and look at it. So, I feel that, I feel like we're kind of getting hoodwinked here, right? Because you talked to Sorensen's office, which I did, and they're talking about giving and helping German Valley to the extent of what they can, between $5 and $7 million. Okay? I feel like you've already got this covered. You've already got this covered, and we were there to help you, to help the village when we thought that things were in very, very dire straits. And I think the compassion of all of us got kind of overtook and it got voted through. I feel like you guys have the money now, and now you're just we're getting hoodwinked. And do you live in German Valley, Mr. Frick?
Yes, I do.
Okay. All right. So you're part of the water system. You're affected by this. Okay.
I represent that part of the district. That's my district. That's what I'm here to do. I'm sorry.
Right. No, it's okay. I wasn't sure where I didn't know if you actually lived in the quaint village of German Valley.
Anything else, Mrs. Hayes?
Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. No. Thank you.
Miss Deininger.
I guess my question would be then, is that we would need to have a completely new intergovernmental agreement, and I also believe that it's a conflict of interest for Mr. Frick to even vote on this at all. That's just my standing. Thank you.
Mr. Brandt.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I agree with Ms. Hayes on everything that she said. And I guess I said in this very room a year ago, and expressed my concerns about putting this through and not addressing our county needs. And so I take issue with what Mr. Frick said about that. No one talked about it then. There was discussion about it back at that point, but no. My problem then is my problem today, in addition to what Mr. Tate said. And that is that this is not about what can be done. This is what can't be done. And what can't be done is spend $500,000 in every small village that's in this county. It's not possible. So how did we single out German Valley? And I feel for them, okay? It's not that I have an issue with what they're up against, but I'm not here to represent just German Valley. I'm not here to just represent my district. I'm here to represent the whole, the county as a whole. And the county needs us to stand up and do what's right to protect the county. They have been covered. You're correct, Mr. Case. This intergovernmental agreement, line number 2 is bottom of page 1. County's funding the project will expire upon the expenditure of $500,000. The completion of the work covered here under for November 30th, 2024. I don't see any way possible that this agreement is going to continue forward. I will be voting no against it. Thank you.
Ms. Anthony.
Thank you. I'm just going to reiterate, my stance has not changed from last month. I agree with what Mr. Frick said. I also agree with what was presented in finance, where Mr. Pell states that the scope of the project isn't changing. The scope of the project is simply to assist with costs of constructing emergency wastewater improvements. That is, I don't even know why an amendment, I know there was debate about this last month, but I'm not even sure an amendment was appropriate because the actual scope of the whole project didn't change. It's just a different part of the project, but that's not specifically stated in the beginning of that resolution there. And to say that we're going to take away something, it just doesn't sit right with me. Water specifically was one of the initial projects that was approved through ARPA funding. And I know that the government has changed the scope of what you can use ARPA funds for, and then all governmental bodies started to add more and more things that they could use the money for. But if you remember initially what ARPA was intended, it was one of the main projects was for clean water. So this project that's being suggested by German Valley is the true intent of one of the reasons ARPA was created. Thank you.
Mr. Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think I don't really have an issue with the fact that there's a project that we once approved for German Valley, but what I do find kind of difficult this evening is that every one of us represents a district, and it's a different part of the county, but yet it's still county work. It doesn't matter what part of the county you're from, you still live in the county or you wouldn't be sitting at this table. So we all are here. We have to look beyond our own district sometimes to make sure that work can get done in other districts. So, I mean, that's a main part of becoming a part of the board, is to look beyond your district and look at the big picture. I mean, if that were the case, we would look at highway and say, well, that's not a highway that doesn't run through my neighborhood. Why would I support it? Because it's part of the county. I guess I'm looking at us, we have to look at the bigger picture. And I think we're getting kind of narrow-minded, Chairman, so I just wanted to share that thought. I don't think we made a bad decision in the fall to use part of the money inside of the city and outside of the city. I just think that was the decision we decided to do. And as everyone knows, that money that isn't in hand isn't necessarily money you can count on yet. And so they may yet have a long way to go, because meeting with the senator, and he says, a representative, and he says he can get it, doesn't mean he can get it. So I just know that the ARPA money was guaranteed money. That might not be enough at the end of the day,
but we did do our part to help a part of the county that did need some help. So thank you.
Mr. Bush?
Yeah, well, pretty much everything's been said, but I am gonna vote for it. But getting back to the intergovernmental agreement, all of the changes in that is the date of the agreement. Am I correct?
I don't believe so, no.
Okay. But anyway, however, we already made the decision before to support this. I think it'd just be kind of bad to bag off of. And I think we need to continue on supporting that.
Mr. Hadley?
Yes, on for the project, and Mr. Brandt brought up a good point, but on this November 30th of 2024, I refer this question to the state's attorney. Can we change that date to be November 30th of 2025 to give them a full year?
I don't think we can on ARPA funds.
Well, I, to a certain extent, the answer is yes, and to a certain extent, the answer is no. The amended agreement you have in front of you has been passed, as I understand it, by the German Valley City Council. So to change it beyond that would kind of void their passing of it, and it would then have to go back to them to be it would be like an amendment to the amendment. Can you do that? Yes. If you did that, would it be effective tonight? No. Does that make sense?
Yes, I know that we have to have ARPA money earmarked by the end of the year, correct, Chairman?
Correct.
And have it spent by?
End of 25.
By the end of 25. Well, underneath this agreement, will this, on November 30th, 2024, end, and that they won't get the money?
My understanding of how it was written, this is mirrored off of the City of Freeport. German Valley had the City of Freeport assist with it, and the City of Freeport's IGA is identical with that term. So we didn't ask for that date to be put in. German Valley presented the IGA that way.
I just hate to pass this, and then in about 45 days, it's no longer good, and they won't get the money.
Anything else, Mr. Hadley?
No.
Mr. Modero?
I'd like to remind the intent, going back to the original decision, was always for this to be seed money. It was always for this to be the start of the project to attract other investors, like potential money from the federal government. And again, I do emphasize that it's potential money. We can't count those chickens just yet. Fingers crossed, hopeful. But this was always to prove that there was serious intent upon this project to better fulfill the full millions of dollars that it was going to take. The other thing I think is worth bearing in mind, this was about fixing an already outdated system. This was already about fixing a system that hopefully will maintain for a few more years, but is past its expectancy. And if that goes wrong, that is a county-wide issue. That is a county-wide problem. That was part of my original motivation in supporting this. Outside of, it seemed like the neighborly thing to do. If there's an emergency in German Valley, that's an emergency in the county, something we will all have to deal with and will be far more expensive than just what we're talking about here. It was never going to be a fair distribution, but we had the proposals, we looked through them, we listened to arguments, we made arguments. These are the decisions we came to. They weren't easy decisions. I would have liked things to go differently in some cases too, but this seemed like the most equitable use, the most neighborly use, given the information and funds we had at the time. It does affect directly a section of the county, but it helps protect the whole county.
Mr. Jogerst for a second time.
Thank you, Chairman. Back when we originally talked about this, I was against it because I think it sets a very bad precedent. I mentioned that last night, that it sets a very bad precedent. And I believe if we continue with this, as these issues pop up in the county, we do need to look at big picture, and I appreciate all these comments, but we're gonna be looked at, hey, you got any money you can spare? We don't have the money to give out to all these towns and cities and stuff, so I think it sets a very bad precedent, so I'm gonna vote no, thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Hart.
To that point.
Mr. Hart, please pull your microphone.
To the point that was just made by Mr. Jogerst, I don't think that's the case at all, because this is ARPA funds. This isn't something we'd normally have or we have every year. So I just would have to reject that argument in particular. The other thing is I pulled, and I'm looking at the intergovernmental agreement that was originally filed, and I don't see any detailed scope of work in this. If somebody could point that out to me, because looking at this agreement as it exists, I just don't see where it was specific enough to really delve into what the scope was, other than the need for the water. I do notice in what was filed that it references an Exhibit A. That's not included here, so I don't have an Exhibit A. Another question regarding this document is I don't understand why it's listed as Exhibit 1, the intergovernmental agreement itself. I'm sure there's a reason that the state's attorney could probably clarify, but we don't even have, I don't know what the Exhibit 1 is. There is no Exhibit A. I don't see any specific scope of work in the original agreement that needed to be amended. So I have a lot of questions as to that and how that came about. It's my understanding that the village of German Valley did not come to us and ask to amend the scope of work in the agreement. I don't know if Mr. Frick could address that or clear that up, but I'd be curious where that came from and how that became an issue.
I'm not sure I understand your question, but the reason that we're looking at an amended intergovernmental government agreement, is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I'm asking specifically, it's, that if the scope of work changed, where's the original scope of work that changed? And did German Valley say, hey, things have changed, we need to amend this? Or did someone from the county ask them to do that?
No, the village, I'm not on the village board or any of that, but the village felt that since the dollars were going to be going for a different part of the sewer project, that they should amend the agreement so that they were transparent with what was being done with the dollars.
Okay. Yeah, I just don't see the scope of work in the original agreement. And so I guess I'm asking, why is there an why is it Exhibit 1, and where is Exhibit A?
It is, it references. Mr. Hart, I guess I will address the original intergovernmental agreement. The Exhibit A did reference the polisher, and when Mr. Gallagher came forward, that was what the entirety of the funds that were going to be used for. This intergovernmental agreement was created with the help of the city of Freeport with German Valley. It was not a document that was created by Stephenson County. So why you don't have Exhibit A, it was presented to the board when it was originally approved. I don't know why you don't have it tonight.
Well, I don't have it because when I went to go get it from the county clerk and I got the filed copy, there is no Exhibit A.
So it was in the original board packet when it was approved.
I think this would probably be the only thing. Isn't this the official Mr. State's Attorney? This is what we have filed. Well, whatever's filed, it would be our official record of this. And
Yeah, well, I mean, I assume that there is an Exhibit A somewhere, and I looked for it myself. In fact, this evening I wasn't able to locate it in my files, but it sounds like Mr. Helms has reviewed it, and That wouldn't surprise me at all, if it was consistent with that representation, but, whatever's filed is filed.
Yeah, this is what's filed, no Exhibit A, that's my point. I went and got it stamped filed.
Right.
So to me, this is,
Incorporate an outside exhibit through reference, which it does, but I don't know where that exhibit is.
right, okay. Well, I guess my point is, I don't see is where the project has changed. And I think it's important for us to, I've heard this characterized as being a matter of logic, and I don't think this is about logic. I think this is about a matter of character and keeping our word. We didn't single out German Valley. We did the same thing with the city of Freeport. These were needs that came up. They were specific to ARPA funds that we felt were excess, and we felt like we were under the gun to get those approved. That was my understanding. We needed to have them approved by the end of this year and expended by the end of next year. So that played into this extensively as well. I just think it's important that we keep our word. At this point, I'd like to make a motion to amend the intergovernmental agreement that we'll be voting on.
Any particular amendment, Mr. Hart, or is that just a statement?
No, the specific amendment is I'd like to change the date in our intergovernmental agreement to the end of next year, 2025, 12/30, let's say, of 2025, rather than November the 30th of 2024. So that would be the amendment I'd be requesting.
Is there a second to the amendment, the motion?
Second.
By Mr. Hadley. Any discussion on the amendment only? The only thing I would caution you with, Mr. Hart, with that date is we are notifying the federal government that these dollars will be spent this way. If they're not spent by that date, those dollars do automatically go back. And there is no wiggle room if you're doing it December 30th of 2025.
I understand it would still be better than November 30th of 2024.
As long as you understand that those dollars would not be allowed to be used for any other use for Stephenson County.
I understand.
Okay. Any other discussion on the amendment? This is on the amendment only. So, Mr. Anthony, Mr. Whalen, Mr. Newton. Mr. Newton, are you on the amendment? Okay. So I'm going to clear off Mr. Whalen. You're not speaking on the amendment, correct? We're glad to come back to you once we're through that. Mr. Newton, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. I don't have a problem with the amendment, other than I do recognize the caution for having it at the last minute, possibly, because if we wanted to utilize the dollars for another project, should they not get used properly, then there would be no wiggle room. If I'm hearing properly, making it the last moment is assuming that nothing can go wrong, and that's what I'm trying to. I have no problem with it being changed, but maybe not to the last moment, because we need a month or two to shift if something goes different and we want to use the money in another way. Thank you.
Any other discussion on the amendment?
Can I address that?
Absolutely, Mr. Hart.
The way I would address that is the only reason that I'm making the amendment is because if we're voting to make this change, and anyone that is voting that intends to have this money go to German Valley, that'll be a completely moot point if we don't change the date. Because there's no way that that $500,000 is going to be expended prior to November 30th. So if you want this money to go to German Valley for this purpose, you have to amend the date to give them the time to do it. Otherwise, there's absolutely no point in doing that.
Anything else, Mr. Hart?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Administrator Newcomer?
I just wanted to clarify that the expenditure that it would have to be allocated by the end of this year.
Correct.
Spent by the end of next year. So
Correct.
just clarifying that.
Right, that's why I would change the date to the end of next year.
Anything else on the amendment? Madam Clerk, please take roll on the amendment only.
Jim Hart.
Yes.
Kurt Copeland.
No.
Adam Modero.
Aye.
Larry Jogers.
No.
Brooke Deininger.
No.
Scott Helms.
No.
Jackie DeMeester.
No.
Nicole Baker.
No.
Steve Frick.
No.
Brian Brandt.
No.
Tim Whalen.
No.
Ronnie Bush.
Yeah.
Samuel Newton.
Yeah.
Luann Hayes.
No.
Casey Anthony. William Hadley.
Yes.
Six aye, 10 nay. Motion fails.
We're back to the original motion to approve as presented. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Anthony?
Can I just ask for clarification what happened officially with the initial intergovernmental agreement?
Can you be more specific as far as what happened?
So technically, that's still in effect. Is that correct?
Well, I guess I don't know the answer to that. What was presented by German Valley was an amended intergovernmental agreement that was pushed through finance and passed on to the full board.
But it hasn't been approved by the full board yet, so the initial intergovernmental agreement is still in effect? Attorney Larson?
Well, I guess it would go back to German Valley's board. If they approved the amended and sent it on to us, then I would say no. You don't have both parties agreeing to the original.
I'm sorry, but the original's been signed by both parties. I'm talking about the original one that was signed
I
months
understand.
ago.
And what I'm stating, and I guess I can defer to the state's attorney, is German Valley voted on and presented to the county an amended intergovernmental agreement, which I would assume would supersede the original. And as you said yourself, the scope of the work has not changed. So if they're approving a different IGA for the same project, I'm not sure the original would take precedence over the amended.
Attorney Larson, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I guess before I rendered an opinion on something like that, I would want to do an independent review of the facts. But the suggestion of an amendment in and of itself wouldn't cause the expiration of the prior agreement. I guess I would want to take a look at their board minutes and see exactly what they were doing and how they were presenting it, and maybe review some of the communications between the two entities before I could really answer that question. Does that make sense?
Kind of. So I guess my point is like if this doesn't pass tonight, we don't really have an answer on whether or not the initial IGA is still in effect. It could still be, is my point, depending on.
Sure, it could be. Now, yes, it could be.
Thank you.
Anything else, Ms. Anthony?
No, thank you.
Mr. Whalen?
I was just going to state, my understanding is the original agreement we had was, the focal point was the dire need that they had, this failure in the scrubber, and that the lift station wasn't necessarily a focus as part of that. Now, the overall scope may or may not be, we can discuss that, but my understanding also from our discussion at Finance is that the cost of the initial part of the project was fully covered by this loan. I may be incorrect on that, but I believe that was all taken care of. And if, in fact, Mr. Sorensen does get this money from the federal government, it would fund the balance of that project completely. Maybe, maybe not. It depends. I imagine over time you'd have to get it requoted and things like that. But one of the things that was stated, they're not in an emergency situation anymore. Is that true? May I ask that?
Of whom?
Of German Valley. I don't know if.
Is there a leave from the board to have the village president come forward? If you wouldn't mind coming up, sir, please. If you wouldn't mind just restating your name.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mark Jewell, Village President for German Valley. The scope of the project was 1A, was like 1A and 1B. And then the second phase of the project was the lagoons. So we've got three basic parts to it. We've got the polishing reactor, which was the scope of the original intergovernmental agreement. Then we had 1B was the lift station, which every gallon of sewage that comes through German Valley goes through that lift station to get up to our sewer plant. And we've got about, if it fails, we've got about 4 hours before we start getting sewage, a serious sewage problem. So anyway, as the materials that were presented to you guys a month ago, we are very far along on the life expectancy of the lift station. And it absolutely has to be done at some point. Whether it gets done, we're proceeding to get it done because from our standpoint, it was more important than the polishing reactor, but the problem was the IEPA didn't see it that way. The IEPA saw it that the polishing reactor was the serious issue.
Thank you. That's what I was trying to establish, is exactly, that was the focal point prior to, when we agreed to pay this money out previously.
Right.
So the scope in that sense has changed slightly. The money is not going towards the polisher, it's gonna go to something else. That's all I'm trying to get at. So that part of it has changed a little bit, and there have been additional funding mechanisms that have been introduced into the equation, which were not there previously when we decided this.
That is correct, yes.
So,
We did not know that those were going to be entertained. And as it's been stated multiple times, the fact that we have press conferences and whatnot about Representative Sorensen giving us
No check in
$5
hand
million
yet. Right.
Until the check is there.
Right.
It's not there.
And I understand that too perfectly, sir. I'm just trying to, sorry.
That actual program gives money to the Army Corps of Engineers, and then they come and solve your problem, which would be fine. But my biggest fear is that we'll have some big natural disaster that the Army Corps of Engineers needs the money for, more importantly than us.
Right.
And the money disappears. So
Understood. Thank you. And I'm just trying to establish the baseline of exactly where we're at. I don't disagree with any of the members here that have stated, myself included, that I don't like taking things back. When we've made a commitment to something, I think that's a very serious matter. But we also owe all the Stephenson County residents a good understanding of what we're getting into here, making sure everybody understands if we do this, this is what we're doing and why, right? And to me, I appreciate the fact that you took the time as a village to reflect on that, to come up with a new agreement, because I don't believe the current agreement is likely in effect, because there's a lot of differences between what that money was for and the fact that there are other funding mechanisms available now that weren't there then. I don't know that everybody would have voted the same way, is all I'm saying. So there are other things to consider, and to me, this is effectively a new agreement. So I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do here personally, but I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate you taking the time to explain that to us. Thank you.
Anyone else have anything for the village president?
I have a question for him.
Yes, sir.
If we vote for this amendment and maintain the 500,000, will you be able to spend that? Will you be able to utilize that by the end of next month?
We should be able to. That's the plan. We should be able to utilize it, at least the lion's share of it. Yeah, we've got a vendor in place that's going to attack it, and they have done several in the area, lift stations, and know what they're doing. So, yeah.
So you have a contractor
Yes.
to do this?
Yes.
It's in place?
Yes.
My understanding that wasn't the case, but that is the case.
And
you'll be able to get it done and get those invoices submitted to us by the end of next month?
Yes.
Okay, because I just don't want to make it a fool's errand for any of us.
Yes.
Thank you.
Mr. Jewell, if I could just ask for clarification, why hasn't the project started already?
I don't know. We were supposed to have groundbreaking on I'm not sure if it's the contractor being delayed. I honestly, I do not have an answer for you.
So when the contractor was selected, there was not any sort of start date or plan for a start date?
Not that I'm aware of.
And I'm not trying to be argumentative with you, but
Yeah.
if that is the case, how are you so certain that you'll be started in the next 3 to 4 weeks?
That's what my people tell me.
Your people?
Well, on the board, Mr. Gallagher, who's an engineer,
Okay,
yeah.
okay.
He's the one that does the heavy lifting
Sure, okay.
on this.
All right, thank you. Mr. Hadley, I'll come to you next, but is there anything for the village president, or?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
45 days, I'm really concerned. It's not much wiggle room. What happens if you can't make this date, and then now you're out 500,000? I know we set it pretty far out. Mr. Newton did bring up a good point, maybe a different type of date. Would you like something towards like December 15th, or? I'm just concerned for the project.
Well, I'm not opposed to a later date, but it already failed. You're changing the date.
Right.
Already failed once, and I don't necessarily see the point of, for 15 days, that it's gonna matter. We'll either get it or we won't.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Jogist, is your question for the village president?
Sort of. So what I'm hearing is this current situation is not an emergency. That's what I'm hearing. Hopefully,
Not an emergency, no.
okay. Secondly, I don't know, I'm not a sewer engineer, but I don't believe any village has a backup system. So any village's system could be susceptible to a failure, not just German Valley's. So to me, this is not an emergency. So thank you.
Mr. Newton, do you have anything for the village president?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead.
So, are you saying you can't you can't even invoice us? And maybe this is to my chairman, because I don't know how the intergovernmental agreement is written. And so he could invoice us. It's any time. I don't understand why he can't invoice us before that date, knowing that the contractor is going to do the work. Is our intergovernmental agreement saying that it has to be done before we give them is that what our intergovernmental agreement is saying? Because if it's just about doing the invoice, we can have him invoice, and if it's 5 days later, 10 days later, what difference does that make? Thank you.
The state's attorney's reading through that to see what the specific language says before we move on.
It says the county's funding for the project, The county, this is the original agreement, the county's funding for the project will expire upon the expenditure of the $500,000 or the completion of the work covered hereunder, or by November 30th, 2024, whichever comes first. So I suppose you could argue about whether generating an invoice would qualify as the expenditure of the $500,000, but otherwise it wouldn't be the completion of the work or November 30th. Again, I'd have to think about that for a little bit.
So can I just ask you a question? Do you think that either or, I mean, it's in the wording, so if it's both completed and invoiced, then that would definitely void it. But if it's either or, if they expend the funds knowing that the contractor is going to do it and he does it, then the contractor's on the hook for not paying for the funds. That's my thought, Counselor. That's all.
It's not this is a little bit technical, but I don't interpret this as a conjunctive or. I interpret this as a disjunctive or, meaning that any one of those conditions would trigger it.
And while it may not be written in the intergovernmental agreement, so maybe it's moot, but it was always about reimbursement. That was with the city of Freeport, and it was with this as well. So the village, at least in spirit, they were going to spend the funds. I remember having discussion with Mr. Gallagher originally that he said that the contractors could invoice the county directly, and I said absolutely not. They would have to go through German Valley, and then German Valley would invoice the county for reimbursement. But again, reimbursement I don't believe is in the language. Ms. Wagner, do you have questions for the village president?
Actually, my question would be, I understand Mr. Newton's stance on the invoicing ahead of time. However, I don't think we can invoice anyone without a correct bill from said contractor that doesn't even know when they're going to start the work. We've seen nothing on paper. We've seen nothing in writing. So I don't know the invoicing for $500,000 to a contractor that hasn't given us anything is I think that's improper.
Anything else for President Jewell before we let him go sit down? Thank you, Mr. Jewell. I appreciate it.
I have a quick one if I could.
For the president, Mr. Hart? Okay, go ahead.
My question is, have you entered into a contract with that contractor? Have you signed that contract?
Yes, I believe we have.
Thank you.
And my understanding of our plan is that we're going to purchase the equipment, the pieces of equipment, we're going to purchase those ourselves so that we, get those invoiced quickly.
So, Mr. Jewell, if I could, are you
Sure,
done?
please. I'm done.
We agreed to this in January of this year, so nearly 9 months ago. Is there a reason why, with that funding in place, that these pieces of equipment weren't already ordered and ready to go? I guess I'm just not, I'm confused as to why now you're starting to order equipment when we approved this funding.
Well, we hadn't decided to proceed on the lift station until after after the change in the procedure. So that's why nothing of that has been ordered yet.
Okay, so moving from the polisher to the lift
Yes.
station is the reason? Okay,
Yes.
all right, thank you, I appreciate this. Any other discussion on this? We do have a motion and a second to approve as amended. Mr. Brandt.
Just point of clarification, Chairman, the thing that we are approving is German Valley's version of an intergovernmental agreement.
That's correct. It's not drafted by Stephenson County.
Yes, so, Mr. Hart, that's their agreement that they put together.
I understand.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Ronnie Bush.
Aye.
Samuel Newton.
Aye.
Luann Hayes.
No.
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart.
Yes.
Kurt Kopleen.
No.
Adam Modero.
Aye.
Larry Jogers.
No.
Brooke Deininger.
No.
Scott Holmes.
No.
Jackie DeMeester.
No.
Nicole Baker.
No.
Steve Frick.
Yes.
Brian Brandt.
No.
Tim Whalen.
No.
Seven A, 9A, motion fails.
Okay, we'll move on to proclamations. We have a proclamation recognizing October as Manufacturing Month. I'll read it quickly here. Stephenson County acknowledges the importance of the manufacturing industry as a key driver of the local, state, and national economy, contributing to innovation, job creation, and sustainable economic growth. And whereas Illinois is home to over 18,000 manufacturing firms representing a diverse range of industries, including advanced machinery, food processing, plastics, and metals, positioning Illinois as one of the leading manufacturer states in the nation. And whereas manufacturing accounts for over 12% of Illinois total economic output, contributing nearly $107 billion annually to the state economy, supporting over 550,000 jobs, and indirectly generating many more in logistics, supply chain management, and business services. And whereas in Stephenson County, the manufacturing industry provides more than 4,000 well-paying jobs that support families and communities with an average annual compensation that exceeds $75,000. Whereas Stephenson County is proud of its rich manufacturing heritage and continues to foster innovation through educational and workforce development initiatives that help prepare local students and workers for careers in manufacturing. Whereas the designation of October as Manufacturing Month in Illinois as part of the nationwide observance serves to highlight the importance of modern manufacturing and its critical role in rebuilding and growing resilient local economies. And whereas Manufacturing Month provides an opportunity to celebrate the achievements of the manufacturing sector, recognize the contributions of manufacturers to Stephenson County's economic success, and promote awareness of careers in this dynamic industry. Now therefore, I, Scott Helms, Stephenson County Board Chairman, do hereby proclaim the month of October as Manufacturing Month in Stephenson County, and encourage all citizens to recognize the importance of this vital industry and its contributions to our community. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion.
By Mr. Bush, seconded by Mr. Jogers. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll be very brief for the chairman's report for the sake of time. The expectation is to have one final finance committee meeting before we wrap up the budget. I'm almost begging board members to please attend this meeting. It's vitally important. We are looking at a potential deficit with the budget. It's important that we get input from all. So please attend that if you're able to at all. And I would also like to have the county clerk, if you would, just discuss voting and how that's going, if you have just a minute to do so.
Yeah, early voting takes place Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, and the Saturday before the November 5th election will be on Saturday, November 2nd, 9 a.m. to noon. Early voting, we have over 2,000 early voters that have been through the doors, and over 1,000 vote by mail have been cast and received. There's still over 2,000 outstanding vote by mail, so the election has been busy. If you have constituents that have questions, please please have them call our office.
And if you're in this room or you're watching on YouTube and you haven't voted, please do so. It's vitally important. All right, we'll move on to action items and information from standing committees. Mr. Whalen, you have finance and 4 items. Would you please present your first?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The first item we have up for consideration is the quote for property liability and workers' compensation. If hopefully everybody had a chance to review that. I think Diamond Brothers did a great job on this, and ICRMT came back with a reduction, actually, which is amazing when you look at the fact that we had property values increased by 15% last year, auto values by 18%, payroll decreased a little bit by 11%. But nationally, when you look at auto and property increases, I know mine went way up this year. But we had decreases in workers' comp and liability, and it's just, that was a pretty neat thing to see. Now, between the first meeting and the second meeting of finance, in consideration of all the budget items, we had some changes. And due to the diligent work of our Director of Finance and the Treasurer and the Finance Committee, who I appreciate all their time and effort in this, we were able to look at a minor change to this, which is going to be included in my motion. Initially, we did not look at increasing our liability umbrella coverage from $5 million to $10 million, but we are going to look at incorporating that in this budget. So I'm going to move to approve the quote for property liability and workers' compensation, which will also include an increase in the overall umbrella to $10 million from $5 million for an added cost of $52,262, which is in the budget as we figured it at finance last night. Also, that just to be clear, if you read what was presented to the board, that does exclude the nursing home over $5 million. So that will include everything else within the county except the nursing home. So that would be my motion.
Is there a second to the motion by Mr. Brandt? Discussion. No discussion. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Tim Whalen,
Yes.
Ronnie Bush. Samuel Newton. Luann Hayes.
Aye.
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart.
No.
Kurt Copeland.
Yes.
Adam Modero.
Aye.
Larry Jogers.
Aye.
Brooke Deininger.
Aye.
Scott Holmes.
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester. Nicole Baker.
Aye.
Steve Frick.
Yes.
Brian Brandt.
Aye.
15A, 1 nay, motion carries.
Your second item, Mr. Whalen.
Second item is the approval of the quote for the employee health insurance. That went up significantly year over year. We had some increases in the, what do you call those things when, the deductibles, sorry. I gotta get my terms right. And so we had some additional funding necessary for the HSAs. That's Georgia sent out some options for that today. And so in talking with the finance director, we did not finalize this. We approved the budget except for some of this additional funding. It's about $13,000 on the HSAs because we had some differences between an understanding, if you will, of what the actual deductibles were for each group. So we've got that cleared up. So I'm going to make a motion to approve the quote for employee health insurance, which HSA option number 2 that was presented to the county board in the total amount of $256,300. And that will take care equitably of where we were last year. Each one of those deductibles will get an increase in funding across the board this year. So that will be my motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
By Ms. Deininger. Discussion. Mr. Hart.
Just a quick question. So what was the, I don't have my laptop, I apologize. What's the total renewal premium on the health insurance?
Hang on. Why am I not seeing it here? Would you please?
Would you mind coming up?
You might as well, if there's any other questions, Gary.
Good evening. your question, the total premiums,
Carrie, can you use the microphone, please?
the total premiums are estimated to be $4,698,524. That assumes the same enrollments as expiring.
And that, what is the increase on that?
$765,456.
456, so that, do you know the percentage
It's
offhand?
approximately a 19.4% increase.
19.4. And then in addition to that, would be option 2 here on the HSA?
Option 2 would be continuing the county's contributions
To the
employees
HSAs,
to enroll in an HSA plan, depending on which deductible they choose.
Right.
Those numbers on the sheet you're looking at, again, assumes last year's enrollments. Those may change a little.
Same census, yeah. So we're looking at 4,698,524 plus 256,300
Correct.
as proposed. Thank you.
Anyone else for Mrs. McBride? Thank you, Ms. McBride. Anyone else? Any other discussion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Tim Whalen,
Yes.
Ronnie Bush,
Yes.
Samuel Newton,
Aye.
Luann Hayes,
Aye.
Casey Anthony,
Aye.
William Hadley,
No.
Jim Hart,
No.
Kirk Copeland,
Aye.
Adam Modero,
Aye.
Larry Jogers,
Aye.
Brooke Deininger,
Aye.
Scott Helms,
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester, Nicole Baker, Steve Frick, Brian Brandt. 14A, 2 nay, motion carries.
Very good. Mr. Whalen, your third item, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Approval of sale of surplus properties. Hopefully you saw in the packet, we approved at Finance the sale of a multitude of properties, various amounts included, total to the county of $9,312.50. And I would so move that those would be approved by this board.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Hart, discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Your final item, please.
One of the other good things that came out of last night's meeting, when we had the meeting last Friday morning, we felt like we might need an increase in the levy request of 3%. But after some diligent work by the finance director, additional work that we were able to do last night, I am going to ask or make a motion to approve a 0% increase over the 2024 extension as stated.
Is that your motion?
I'll second that.
Is that your motion, Mr. Whalen?
Yes, sir.
All right, second by Mr. Jogers. Discussion? Mr. Hart, go ahead.
My question is, what we're voting on is not, is it 3%, where would the 3% be? That would be applied to the levies, I assume.
Correct.
Or is that the extension itself?
Well, that would be applied as an increase to the overall levy, and that would be distributed among the different funds.
The CPI for the extension is, I think, 3.4% this year. Maybe I could we have Adrian?
Absolutely.
Answer a couple of questions.
Director
for
DeWall,
me?
would you mind coming out, please?
Okay.
See that either.
So this is something that I reiterate every year. The CPI is determined by the state, and that is already built into our calculations. So what the board is voting on is an increase on the tax extension from the previous year. So you can see in pink, the total amount extended was $10,610,000. So the 5% allowed under PTEL is $530,000. The amount that was passed in finance or was discussed in finance was 318,000. So that's an option. You don't always have to take the 5%. You can take any percentage between 0 and 5 if you so choose.
So my question is, I can't see those screens, but the
Okay.
extension is what percent this year?
From the state,
From the state?
amount,
3.4.
that's the
3.4,
CPI.
so
That's
that's,
the CPI.
right, so the CPI
Yes.
is 3.4.
Correct.
So we'll be taking that CPI.
That CPI is built into the calculation of the taxes
Right.
already.
Right, and
Yes.
the PTEL, that law is the lesser of 5% or whatever the CPI is.
Yes.
So like last year, my understanding, and that was my first year doing it, is that the CPI and the PTEL were both 5. In reality, the CPI last year was 7,
Right.
but it was limited to 5. So the PTEL is not what the extension is not what we're voting on.
The CPI is not what you're voting on.
Right.
You're voting on asking for 5% more in the levy,
Right,
or 3%, or anything between 0 and 5.
okay. So that's,
So the amount, just the tax computation report is up on the screen right now. So you can see the total extension for last year is right there at the bottom, circled in red. So that's where I got that number on the spreadsheet.
And what is it? Could you read that number to us, please, that you just?
Yes, it's the 10,610,471. It's in pink on your sheet.
Yes, I got that. And
Yep.
that, well, I'm sorry.
You're fine, Mr. Hadley.
So that's what we base our figures on. So the county is allowed to ask for more than 5%, but that would trigger a truth and taxation hearing.
right.
So we always kind of say that
And
we're
that's
limited
on,
to that.
that's on everything other than the extension. The extension is 3.4%.
The CPI
It's
is
the CPI.
3.4%.
If if it were higher, that would be limited to 5.
Yes.
PTEL is property tax extension limitation law, so it's just the extension. So this 3% that originally was here had nothing to do with the extension. It had to do with increasing the levies.
Correct.
Correct? And that's limited to 5% without a hearing.
Yes.
Okay. And now we're asking for 0. My last question would be, do we have to take the CPI?
The CPI is built into the calculation, yes.
Okay, so that's automatic. I asked the
Yes.
Department of Revenue yesterday, the property tax division, and they said they honestly didn't know if you had to take the CPI. But I'm asking all of this because, again, last year was my first year doing this, and I know for a fact that up to this year, a lot of people thought we were voting on the CPI. Apparently, we've never been voting on the CPI. So I just wanted to make sure I had a clear understanding, and Adrian, you had schooled me on this the other day as well, so thank you. Thank
Mr.
you.
Newton.
Thank you. Quick question, Adrian, did we take the increase last year?
Yes. No, we did not.
We
How
took
much-
the CPI increase.
How much was the increase last year?
5% was the CPI last year.
In thousands of dollars, how much was it? Estimated.
Because it's one small component of the calculation here. I can't give you a dollar amount because there was also a state multiplier built into the figures as well, which we've never had before, or for many, many decades, I believe. So I'm sorry, I can't provide a dollar amount for you.
It's really complicated.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Whalen.
Yeah, I would just say that I'm excited about the fact we don't need to take additional funds this year. After going through everything in more of a detailed process, I'm hopeful that next year, as we approach the budget process, we're going to change a few things. Because I think if we would have been able to do some of the work we did last night, prior to, approving that on Friday, we wouldn't have done it. But again, I attribute this to that gal right there and Mrs. Helms, because they're diligently working for this county behind the scenes and making sure all this stuff lines up, working with the auditors. Again, they're doing a great job, and I really, really appreciate that. Makes our job a lot easier when it comes time to looking at all this stuff at the end of the year. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Ms. Anthony.
Just to clarify, the reason this is still being brought up, even though we're saying 0%, is because we're agreeing to the calculations as they exist up there right now?
These are estimates.
Is that coming back to us that we look at that when more numbers or?
So the column that you're looking at is the levy column.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those will stand. We can still adjust within our levy. So some levies can get more, some can get less. So there's still wiggle room in that regard, but this is just voting on an increase.
Okay.
The dollar amount asked for.
All right, thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Hadley.
So this year, we're keeping it flat, but at 10,609,730, what was last year's number?
We asked for that amount.
Pardon me?
We asked for that amount.
It's flat.
Okay, that same amount, 10,609,000.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I have. Thank you.
Anyone else?
So we're not approving anything?
Mr. Hart, would you like to speak?
Oh, yes.
Go ahead.
We're not approving anything. There is no.
Motion on the floor is for a 0% increase.
Oh, 0%. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Apologize. Thank you.
Problem. Anyone else? Mr. Newton.
Mr. Chairman, have we already considered all of the additional things that the departments need for this year, since we're not taking the increase or we're voting not to take it? The supplements, have they already been included in the budget?
They have not. I'll let the finance director discuss where we're at currently with the budget.
We do have some wiggle room with some of the levies that we can rearrange them and put more money towards the supplemental requests. There are a few that I don't think will be fully funded.
Do you think
I don't think there is no way.
to fund all of the requests
Even if
without
the
an increase, even with an increase?
Yes.
So be it.
Mr. Jogers, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. One of the things I mentioned last night, I'd done some research, and currently Stephenson County is one of the, I want to say one of the highest tax-paying counties in the country. The average yearly property tax paid by Stephenson County residents amounts to 4.42% of their yearly income. Stephenson County is ranked 147th of 3,143 counties for property taxes as a percentage of median income. So we don't have a very huge income base here. So even where we're at, we are very highly taxed in this county, and that's part of the reason why we need to go zero on this. So we've got to cut and stay within our means. We're definitely in a recession. We're going to have to cut back here until things get better. So thank you.
Ms. Anthony.
Thank you. I just, when we consider this, I agree with that absolutely. I know we're one of the higher tax districts, but I've brought this up every year in where the tax levies are and what's been approved, and I've tried to do research, et cetera, and it just never sits right with me when you have the levies for particular funds that are approved by referendum that aren't fully funded. I'm looking, I came across the county clerk tax manual, and it says in here that generally, except for schools and community colleges, if a majority of all ballots cast on a proposition are in favor of the proposition, with the referendum, the maximum rate so established shall become effective with the levy next following the referendum. So when you think about like the mental health 708 board fund, the maximum rate is 0.05. For the nursing home, it's 0.1. VAC is 0.03. Those were all established through referendum. And we're close with some of them. With the nursing home, we're at 0.05, which isn't even close to 0.1. And I keep asking, every year this comes up, and we're always told, but if we put it here, then we have to take it from somewhere. And I get that concept, but then I also, when I read things like that, it sounds like we have to. And so I just wanted to present that information. This isn't the first year I presented it. I brought it up every single year. I just bringing it up, and if someone can provide different information from me that comes from state statute or anything like that, I'd be happy to educate myself more. But if you consider that, and if we're not fully funding according to what we have to, then what do we do next? Thank you.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman, if I could just.
Absolutely.
So this is a letter, just to Mr. Hart's point, this is a letter from the Department of Revenue, the Property Tax Division.
Right.
And it says, the consumer price index, the CPI, or inflation percentage to use in computing the 2024 extensions under PTEL is 3.4%. So it says to
Right.
use in computing.
Right.
So we do actually use that figure.
Yeah, I had asked
That's
because
shocking that
again,
they
it
did
just,
not know.
they were like, I don't know. I just don't know. I think so. But my confusion was that the nomenclature that is bandied about of taking or not taking the CPI
Right.
is incorrect, apparently. So, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Director DeWall. Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Tim Whalen,
Yes.
Ronnie Bush. Samuel Newton,
No.
Luann Hayes,
Yes.
Casey Anthony,
No.
William Hadley,
Yes.
Jim Hart,
Yes.
Kurt Copeland,
Yes.
Adam Modero,
Aye.
Larry Jogers,
Aye.
Brooke Deininger,
Aye.
Scott Helms,
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester, Nicole Baker, Steve Frick, Brian Brandt.
Aye.
14A, 2 nay, motion carries.
Very good. Mr. Whalen, any other information out of your committee, such as the next Finance Committee date?
Thank you all, and no, sir. I would just encourage everybody to read the audit. I think there was a couple things we need to work on going forward out of that, and we will be working diligently to correct those things over the next year. Thank you much.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to Public Property and Safety. Mr. Copeland, you have an action item.
Yes, Chairman. I have an approval for the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Freeport and Stephenson County for the use of the county antenna tower. I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Mrs. Hayes, discussion. We'll make a comment that Exhibit A and B will need to be filled out prior to execution on this. This came from the City of Freeport. Obviously, they don't necessarily have the address of where this is, but it's out the Public Works Department. Director Townsend, do you have anything that you'd like to add with that? Okay, thank you. And this is another stellar example of working with the City of Freeport. So I'm very pleased to be able to do this.
Good stuff.
If there's no other discussion, all in favor, please. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Hart.
Just
Go
a
ahead.
quick question. Can someone explain to me exactly what they're using the tower? It's our antenna. Freeport will be using it.
It's not our antenna. They're going to be placing their antenna on.
Oh, they're
on the
placing
building.
their antenna on our
Correct.
property.
The location is ideal for what they need to do, so they had asked to put that on there.
What's it being used for?
Fire department, correct?
Oh, yeah, you're right. I saw that. Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Hart?
No, that's it.
All
Thanks.
right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Anything else out of your committee, Mr. Copeland?
No, Chairman.
All right, we'll move on to administration. Mr. Jogers, you have 2 items.
Thank you, Chairman. The first one up is the approval resolution establishing the holiday calendar for 2025. So I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Deininger. Any discussion on this? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Your next item, please.
Okay, the second one is approval 2025 County Board and Committees meeting calendar. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Mr. Brandt. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Any information of your committee, sir?
Not at this time.
All
Thank
right,
you.
move on to court services. Mr. Bush, you have 4 items.
Yeah, one is the approval of disability accessible improvement grant. We voted to allow, for the block for a grant for improvement for handicap accessible. That would include the front door and 2 bathrooms. So I should move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Hart. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? 1 in opposition, motion carries. Your second item, please.
Second is, I'd like to combine the 2 together because they're both the same, pretty much the same. It's approval of master software and service agreement with Cricket Solution, and then a statement of work with Cricket Solution. And I also move.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Hart. Any discussion on this?
Yeah, what that is we're going to the e-citation, which will allow the officer to be able to write tickets instead of using software where for tickets instead of writing it. So, and that's already in the line item in the budget. That's what that's about.
All right, Mr. Jogerst?
Has this been reviewed by the state's attorney?
I wrote, yes, it has.
Okay, thank you. Just checking.
Any other discussion? Madam Clerk, please take roll on this. And again, this is for both items.
Ronnie Bush. Samuel Newton. Luann Hayes.
Aye.
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart. Kurt Copeland. Adam Monteiro. Larry Jogers.
Aye.
Brooke Deininger. Scott Helms.
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester. Nicole Baker. Steve Frick. Brian Brandt. Tim Whalen.
Yes, ma'am.
16A, 0 nay, motion carries.
Very good. Your final item, Mr. Bush?
Yes, another intergovernmental agreement with the city and the county, the city will be used of the quick software as well. So
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Hart, discussion on this. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please take roll.
Ronnie Bush. Samuel Newton. Luann Hayes.
Aye.
Casey Anthony.
Aye.
William Hadley.
Yes.
Jim Hart.
Yes.
Kurt Copeland.
Yes.
Adam Monteiro.
Aye.
Larry Jogers.
Aye.
Brooke Deininger. Scott Helms.
Aye.
Jackie DeMeester. Nicole Baker. Steve Frick.
Yes.
Brian Brandt. Tim Whalen.
Yes.
16A, 0 nay, motion carries.
Very good. Mr. Bush, any information of your committee? That's it. All right. Thank you very much, sir. Move on to Nursing Center. Mrs. Baker, no action items. Any information?
Yes, so we're still waiting on the last 2 units, the larger units for HVAC to be completed, hoping at the end of the month. Next Wednesday is the trunk or treat at the facility, so come on out at 5 o'clock. And as of today, census is 46.
Okay. Mrs. Hayes, I'm sorry, your button was pushed. Did you want to speak?
Yes, I did, Chairman. I had a quick question regarding the next finance meeting. You said that you'd like us all to attend it, but no one provided a date or time.
I don't have the calendar in front of me, but I believe it's maybe the 8th of November. It's a Friday.
I believe it's 8:30 in the morning,
What?
Friday the 8th.
What?
We've got all these holiday,
Anything else for nursing? All right, thank you very much. We will move on to planning and development. Mr. Frick, no action items. Any information?
Nothing at this time, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Public Works, Mr. Brandt, no action items. Any information? All right, is there any public comment? Mr. Whalen? 3 minutes, sir.
Tim Whalen, thank you. Just a quick one. I concur with Mr. Hart. We've done that as a family the last couple of years out at Farm and Fleet. Very cool. So if you can ring a bell, that's a beautiful thing. Secondly, I just wanted to log a complaint if I could. I don't know if y'all are aware of this, but Somebody's been stealing signs once in a while, and they're typically of the Republican persuasion. Nothing against anybody here, but if you drive in from Lily Creek Road and 20, and then come down to Park Avenue and such, there were some signs placed along that path that at one point were all gone. And they were only from one side of the equation. And it disappoints me more than anything. If anybody sees this, that is aware of who might have done that, shame on you, you know. I would never think to steal a sign from anybody else in this county. And it's just sad to me that occurred. So just wanted to state that. They're back out. I helped with that. I'll be the first to admit that. But anyway, that was very disappointing. Just wanted to say.
Any other public comment? Motion to adjourn.
I make a motion.
This is Hayes. Is there a second? By Miss Anthony, I
to it,
believe.
Mr. Bush?
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you very much.
Didn't have to go